Blog Talk Radio.
Here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, boxing fans joining us around the world. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. Finally, it is showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our life to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude. We're rooting, and we go into that fight just to land on the line.
Dope Radio Podcast. I am your host, Chris Carlson. We are live on a Wednesday night. I wasn't able to do it last night. Things are, happening. Let's put it that way. I actually have returned to work as well. But anyway, we are back on a Wednesday night to talk some boxing, and we are less than a week away from that Tuesday night that ESPN returns, Top Rank returns. Now, I've seen some people already kind of berate Top Rank's schedule. And, yeah, some of the fights that they have already, it's not just some amazing fights, or not even amazing, but some of them are just like stay busy, yada, yada, yada. There's going to be a variety of type of fights, okay? Let's just put it that way. But there are starting to become a couple of fights that stand out where you go, okay, now that's a really good fight. So we will update you on more fights that are being made. Canelo supposedly is in talks with kind of a surprising opponent. I wouldn't say like surprising, like shocking or nothing like that, but like, I don't know. It's interesting, especially the weight class. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a variety of boxing fight news updates as far as, boxing's return and everything. I'm definitely excited. I'm also going to address a couple of items. A couple of main things here. Premier Boxing's Champions 5-year anniversary. That's what one of one of the titles of the show. The other one is Malignaggi's Ignorant Views. So I'm going to talk about that, Paulie. Someone brought it to my attention, and I'm going to speak on it a little bit. But, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the Premier Boxing Champion. It's hard to believe. We're over 5 years. 2015, I think it was March 2015. Here we are 5 years later. We're going to talk about, the good, the great, the good, the bad, the ugly type stuff. Just kind of overall give a review of it and just talk about, that it's been 5 years and talk about the first couple of years that was, so spread out over networks, and talk about some of the improvements they made, some of the failures that they had, and some of the improvements they can continue to make. That's for sure. And also just in general, how, as we documented well here, it's been documented in the court of law about, how the media, the media showing bias wasn't documented in court per se. That was, paying people to shit on the PBC. That's something a little different, but not totally different. But we'll talk about how the media, it's really easy to line up the media the first couple of years, especially with the PBC, and how they've treated Top Rank's ESPN deal in DAZN and how they've reported on that stuff. And it's quite interesting how different it is. But we're going to talk in general about it. Like I said, whether it was, across 6 to 8 networks and even some hardcore fight fans were having a little problem, especially in that first year or two following all the fights because they were spread out, across the networks. But we're just going to talk a little bit about it. I shouldn't go too deep on it right now because it's just the intro. Chris Mannix said something that I definitely agree with about DAZN. And he said it with passion, and I totally agree with him. The only thing is, like a lot of media members, it's so funny that he has something to say about this, which, like I said, I totally agree with what he's saying about DAZN and some of the DAZN haters that want to see it die. I'll play an audio clip with that. But it's just so funny if you paid attention at all how he treated, the PBC and all the reports he made and how many times he, shoveled dirt on their grave. It's pretty funny. Like I said, I totally agree and see it all over boxing Twitter of what he said. It's just funny he's saying that as a DAZN, not totally. Well, he is an employee of DAZN. He is one, actually. But anyway, so we're going to talk a little about that. And we'll talk about a variety of other stuff. I also mentioned Paulie Malignaggi made some ignorant views as far as oppression and how it doesn't exist over the last 20 years. We're going to talk. I'll give my take about that. It's not going to be some 45-minute lecture or nothing like that. But I did see the take, and I remember seeing a partial tweet or something a while ago, or somebody sent me it. But now I've been set straight as far as what he said on an interview. So we'll talk about that. But anyway, if this is your first time listening to the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast, it streams live right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. It streams live at Archives. It's basically the headquarters. However, to find the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast, you don't have to go to Blog Talk and download it directly or listen to the browser like a lot of people do. That's cool. If not, though, we are available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Player FM, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, really across the board. I'm also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network, which can be found across the board as well, including Spotify. You can use your Siri or Alexa through Spotify to find the platform. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.com. That's thegruelingtruth.com. They got a great sponsor over there, betnow.eu, with the promo code TGT. It's boxing, it's football, it's basketball, it's baseball, it's everything in between. That's thegruelingtruth.com. One more thing, if you're thinking about cutting the cord or you're not quite happy, we have one for you. It's called AT&T TV Now. Okay, it's live streaming cable. I use it myself. They do have the 7-day free trial. Even when you sign up, there's going to be no annual contract, of course. Plans start as low as $55 a month. You can stream it anywhere. They do have the cloud DVR, and for boxing fans, Showtime, which does look, it seems like they're getting a little bit better quality product beyond Clarissa Shields and Showbox this year. It is only $11 on that platform. So it's AT&T TV Now, like I said, live streaming cable. For those who just live in a part of the country or a part of the city by an airport or whatever, you just don't have dependable internet whatsoever. You can archive something on Netflix. That's different than streaming something live. There is AT&T TV. That's a normal cable platform. It's a growing platform. It's here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, parts of New York, parts of Florida, California, Texas, all the way up to Seattle, other parts of the Midwest like St. Louis. Basically, just Google it, put your area code in there, see if you got it. Otherwise, AT&T TV Now, like I said, live streaming cable. Okay, so like I said, usually I have a Monday NBA show for those who were looking for that. If you didn't hear us last week, I almost said last year. If you didn't hear us last week, we were going to wait for that NBA announcement to see if it was coming, and sure enough, it looks like it's going to come tomorrow officially. We've heard about a variety of stuff pertaining to this. Man, oh, that's right. These frickin' emergency alerts for the curfew just blow up your phone like nobody's business. Jesus. Anyway, sorry. Where was I? I lost it because my phone started freaking out. What was I saying? I can't believe I just lost it. I wish I could rewind it. But anyway, what was I saying? Weird. Anyway, I know what I said. NBA. So we're going to do the NBA show tomorrow. And for those looking for the Living in Loserville podcast episode, it'll be Friday. We're going to do some stuff there. We'll talk about that later. But just so you know, I just been busy. I did get to return to work, which I'm very happy for. For those who got laid off or haven't been able to find work, definitely my thoughts go out to you. Definitely feel for you. Like I said, on a personal note, it is nice to report to some kind of structure. Like, hey, all right, I'm clocking in. I'm here. I'm doing my job. Even leaving, it feels good to get some sort of structure going. But obviously, I've been a little busy of late anyway with local stuff here. We've had a lot of stuff going on in the city, as everybody knows. Surrounding the George Floyd death, and so yeah, I've been kind of in and out of that as well. I'm not going to sit there and say I'm on the front lines 24/7, or woe is me, feel bad for me. It has nothing to do with that. Just letting you know why I haven't been able to do a show up until this Wednesday for the last chunk of days, which I normally would have a Monday, Tuesday show. But anyway, yeah, it's just been a lot going on in general. So, but I'm here. I'm here to talk a little boxing. We're going to talk. Well, you know what? I mean, doesn't it kind of line up to start? I just talked about George Floyd and whatever whatever your viewpoints are with whatever. That's up to you. I'm not here to tell you how to think. But I do know systematically, I have done a fair amount of research. I have been active in a fair amount of protests over the years, probably starting early 2000s, in and out. Like I said, I'm not trying to paint myself as a frontliner and someone who's, top leader in the city, nothing like that. I just pitch in when I can. But I've done, I've had enough experience and just done the research. A lot of people they're just ignorant. They just don't know. You don't really get taught much in high school. Even in college, you still have to dig deeper into a systematic racist system. It doesn't, I think a lot of people get so defensive about their country. And sure, in a lot of ways, it is a great country, but in a lot of ways, we have so much resource and so much potential that it's frustrating as well. And so a lot of people just haven't taken the time to actually do the research. They'd rather just be lazy or ignorant or just not care or not know. My thing is, if you care only about one thing, like let's say you didn't post the first couple of days, right, about George Floyd's death because you have cop friends or military friends or whatever. You don't think it's you don't think it's actually going on. You don't really believe in racism because Obama got hired. Well, he did get hired. Got elected. You don't really think that exists. You think it's just people being lazy. There are plenty of people out there like that, okay? And if you're in my audience, everyone has a right to their own opinion, but there's opinions and then there's facts. And so there's a lot of depth to this issue that we have. And racism is not as right in your face as it used to be. It can be more like, here's an example. Do some research on the application studies that get done every year. And they send out thousands of applications to these companies, and they send one with the most stereotypical white name and the most stereotypical black name, including a stereotypical area to grow up in. And they send them out. And they get them back, and the stats tell you something. Then they improve the black person's resume, whether it's an internship or a minor study or whatever. They make it better than the white person. Send it out, comes back. It's very telling what the stats tell you. Then they keep the black person have the better resume, but then they put like a criminal charge on the white person's stuff, resume stuff, and then they send it out, and then look at the results. So it's layers and layers and layers, and I think people, to get back to that, some white people just get so defensive of their country. You can't just blindly support anything. You know, whether you listen to Fox News or CNN, you shouldn't gather your information from just one of those sources. You know, you have to, when you gather information, you have to do it not blindly, like I said. You have to just, you kind of do. Now that the way I put that, you actually do have to blindly do the research. You can't just, if you're going to dig, you got to dig in every direction. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. And for Paulie to come across and say what he said, it's just ignorance. It's ignorance. And with Paulie, you know, when he says stuff like there, you know, there are some things that he said lately that, you know, he's a Trump supporter, and you know, whatever. It is what it is, right? I'm not sitting here telling you who to vote for. I'm not sitting here doing that type of stuff. But so he said some stuff that I disagree with, some stuff I agree with, whatever. I haven't unfollowed him. I haven't got after him. I haven't done that. I haven't unfollowed him because he doesn't have my exact views or whatever. You know what I mean? But when you say stuff like this, it really adds to the other ignorant stuff you already said, and it just closed-minded. So here's what he said. This is IFL TV. This is what he said.
Outright calling them racist, and the reaction would be much bigger. Of course. Which is that's why I kind of try not to join into the race conversations, is because this is one of the exact examples of why I don't believe there is racial oppression in 2020 in this century. I believe there has been, sure, but I don't believe there's any racial oppression today. I believe it's all made up, and I believe it's exaggerated. And this is exactly one of the reasons why. The fact that
So, has someone exaggerated it at some point? Sure. I'm sure someone has, though, no doubt. But like, to say something, and even when he says, like, was there oppression, systematic oppression before? Sure. He kind of is like, yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to accept that. Well, it's not about if you're willing to accept that or not. And I'm not trying to put, you know, let me make sure, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth when I say that. But I'm saying what it comes across as when you say stuff like that, it comes across as like, oh, sure. Well, so you at least give you that. But to sit there and tell you in the last 20 years that there hasn't been, you know, some oppression when it comes to race, you just haven't done your research, you know. And I've heard him talk kind of in this area, but never fully say it. So I've heard him talk about stop and frisk. I've heard him talk about a couple of things, and I did, you know, appreciate his viewpoint in some sense, because he is from Brooklyn. He did grow up around a fair amount of, you know, African Americans, black people. He did. And he also, quote unquote, dressed a certain way, the way he put it, maybe a hip hop way, or however you want to stereotypically say it. And he said there was times where he got, you know, stopped and frisked or whatever. But it just, the layers of it, and it doesn't mean you did this, but you have to realize that it's going on, and to say that there's nothing the last 20 years of oppression, like systematic. I mean, it's silly. It's just completely silly, because when did it go away? So was it? Well, it couldn't have been just Obama, because he said the last 20 years, basically, this century. So my thing is, when did it go away? When did we start to see all this major improvement since we passed bills even in the 40s and 50s and 60s? Like, they've made incremental movements, no doubt, but to sit there and say that it's all done, when did it stop? So where's your evidence of it stopped? I don't understand that. Like I said, if you just do the research on the application stuff, that right there shows you. You know, we're not even talking about in the interview, you know. So I'm just saying, to say that is just super ignorant. And that's why I had to add it in my title, Malignaggi's ignorant viewpoint, because you're just closing your mind. And it's not about a left or a right thing. I know he's a staunch Republican. I know. Well, I don't know what he is actually, to be honest with you, because I have heard him say stuff about some other. I don't know. I'm not a big right or Republican or Democrat. I think the two-party system's broke. I think there's good people on both sides, but if you want to rise in both parties, you have to have blood on your hands. Are there some differences between the both parties? Yes, of course. There is, no doubt. But to me, there's not enough difference in general, and there's not enough positive legislation passed in the system itself. To go from PAC money to super PAC money. Oh, yeah, that's reform. So I don't believe in the two-party system ran by money. That's where I'm at. So I'm not worried about, he has a Republican view or other. Okay, sure. Can I say it? Like I said, are there some things that I, agree with or disagree with? Yeah, of course, from both sides. And I'd have to admit, I have leaned left on a lot of topics. But I kind of just, years ago, just kind of tried to, not just erase it from your head, because you're not going to completely erase it, but just look at it as a whole. And I'm sick of the blame game. I'm sick of people digging only on the left side and only on the right side to attack the other side. Because we can go back and forth and back. It's like this fake news thing. I wish Trump would add Fox News into this fake news thing, because then I would agree with him. But only a couple of people that have actually, oh my God, spoken some truths to Trump, then he'll say something about him or Fox. But other than that, the fake news thing's bullshit, because he doesn't mention Fox enough. So my point is, to say something that ignorant really shows the level of ignorance that he's on right now. It just does. It just does. Like I said, I've had him on the show numerous times back in the day when it was an interview format. I've really liked him as a commentator. I liked him as a boxer. But there's just a time and a place where you go, all right, dude, you're fucked. And that was on a boxing video. And I went over what they were talking about. I tried to play a little of the beginning from IFL about the Devin Haney and how if a white person said, no black fighter's going to beat me, of course, that is true. They would get more shit. But it's not like Haney didn't get shit, though, let's be honest. And we all know, well, we don't all know because people don't know, but, he already lost to two white dudes. So either way, there is going to be some stuff that doesn't seem to line up, but you got to put it in the pot. You can't mix it up. You can't just say, well, these 2 points, and that's what I'm standing on, so that's why I think that. That's not how it works. It's kind of like some of these folks, I'm going to offend some men here, but some of these guys that look at, like, of course the divorce court thing has some flaws. It has some major flaws, no doubt about it. Some of these, per month settlements that they get to have a kid with somebody rich, that is fucked up. There is some stuff that's fucked up. But you got to remember, if for thousands of years you shit on a female, guess what? There's going to be some payback. I'm not saying that sometimes you see some court say they owe this, this dude owes this $100,000 a month or, more. Yeah, it is. It is too much. It is too much. But remember, this is a product of what happened. So you're going to have people take advantage of something, because before, if you try to divorce or leave first of all, a lot of women, percentage-wise, a fair amount were living with people they didn't want to live with and getting raped, So, I mean, if you I'm not going to go too deep on this, but I was trying to give you an example of, you're right, there is some back and forth. There is some points that come out when we try to make it more fair, but that's the point. It's just never been more fair, or just as fair, I should say. And I'm not talking, life's not fair. We know that, okay? But what Paulie said in the last 20 years, and just a nonchalantly, was it in the past? Sure. I mean, even to say sure is kind of a blow-off, but I know he probably knows it because he did say sure. He didn't say no. But even sure, it happened. Dude, it did. What made it go away? That's all I'm gonna say. What made it go away? Look at how people get, sentenced, black and white. Look how people get sentenced for the same fucking crime and the same drug at times. I mean, there's just layers and layers that this is not this type of show. So I'm not gonna go too much longer. Actually, I'm gonna shut it off. But I just had to get that out because it is boxing oriented. Because Paulie Malignaggi, and also he said it on a boxing show. That's the only reason why I'm talking about it like that. But yeah, police brutality right there. Period. Just that alone has gone on for these last 20 years. Easy. Just that alone. But anyway, there are a couple of items that I'll get to before I start breaking down the 5-year anniversary review or whatever of the PBC. It's kind of hard to believe. It's hard to believe how long the top-ranked ESPN deal is. It's really hard to believe, actually, when you really line it up. It's like, holy shit, dude. I will talk a little bit about the Forbes list. Kudos to Floyd Mayweather. He's done this a couple of times now in a variety of ways. It sounds like he paid for the funeral arrangements and different ceremonies for George Floyd. So kudos to him for that. Mayweather, talking about how he's trying to help fighters, young black fighters, I think is what he said, as a trainer too. So, man, if Floyd really is 100%, just feels like his Roger died and his pops is getting older, and maybe he is going to take this dead serious. Maybe it's part of being in the gym, and he's going through this, and then in 6 months he won't be a trainer. I don't know, but man, it sure would be good if he could do this. I'm not going to get into the beef of well, he's training Devin Haney. What's up with that? I mean, he's going to fucking train whoever the fuck he wants. It is what it is. Now I can see where Gervonta's like, dog, why are you giving pointers to a possible opponent? Hell yeah, I can see it from Gervonta's side. But also, it is what it is. They've been at odds for a long-ass time anyway. It doesn't look like, he's saying he's he's an opponent. So, but yeah, I will have a fair amount of news to get into as far as some dates and times and rumors, all sorts of Saudi Arabia and, all sorts of rumors out there as far as fights. Peter McNeely is in the fucking news for a Texas fight. Peter McNeely, dude. Hey, I'm laughing because it's funny now, but I give respect to Peter McNeely because how many was just bum rushed? Don't get me wrong, it didn't work out for him, but he had the balls enough to bum rush Tyson. I remember sitting there with a pack full of people in the house going, "Oh shit, we had so much respect for McNeely." After that, we did, because we were like, dude, we thought he was a joke, obviously, but, dude, going into it, but when he freaking tried to bulldoze Tyson, that shit, he got fucked up, but we respected it. We're like, hey, McNeely, he's got balls, dude, and then he, went on that Pizza Hut or Domino's run. Remember, he had those commercials after that. Hey, he made his money, but damn, when you hear Peter McNeely, you're like, wow, what are we doing? And then there's also some sort of Floyd Mayweather signed to return, but not in the ring. So there's some sort of huge charity event. This might shape up to some kind of interesting event that actually could really do a lot for charity. We'll see, though. We'll see. We'll see if it actually happens. Anyway, on to Chris Mannix. Now, Chris Mannix, he recently, he works for DAZN. That's not all he does. He's a basketball guy, I think, first and foremost, to be honest. He's been in basketball for quite a while, too, NBA. But in Yahoo and Sports Illustrated, and the guy, when I'm talking about the media, and I've talked about this in the past, too, I'm not, judging their knowledge of the sport or how good of a writer they are or how good they are at their actual job. Most of these people are great at their job. That's why they're in it. When I say something about Steve Kim, it has nothing to do with boxing knowledge and all that shit. What he does is good, great. What he does is great for what he does, but it doesn't mean that he can't take criticism because they're over-the-top bias is my point. So when I call out media members, remember that. I already know I'm not a boxing historian. I already know a lot of these dudes have been covering it since the mid to late 90s. All these websites that popped up in the late 90s, early 2000s, like, I already know why they have this large following. I get it. I followed them for years, but I also got to call a spade a spade. And, some people like that I do that. Some people don't. Some people unfollow me. Some people follow me. I don't give a shit. I'm just saying what's up. That's all this show's about. And obviously, especially when it's segment heavy like it has been in a while. But the first thing, I'm going to play 2 audio clips, okay? 2 audio clips. First one is him talking about DAZN, and I 100% agree with Mannix on this. And anybody else who said it. But he said it loudly. But in the same breath, and I'll get into that, it is so funny that he's so, once again, emotional and passionate about this. But his track record of judging Al Haymon and the PBC and celebrating, the quote-unquote death of stuff, it's just so backwards. And that's what gets me. But I do agree. I'm going to play it right now.
But before I do, I have to say this. And I say this not as someone that works for DAZN. I am part of the broadcast team there. But I say this because the stomping on DAZN's grave in the last few days, like, all of you people that do that can fuck right off. Like, you can just fuck right off. Like, this is the only sport in the world, Evan, where people actively root for people that contribute to boxing to fail. Like, and you experienced it with HBO. Like, people were rooting for HBO to fail for a time. Like, when Showtime was going through their struggles last year, everyone was, get out of the business, Showtime. Make way. You're not going to spend the type of money you need. Like, all you Twitter bots out there, I know all of you listen to this podcast because you tweet back at me during it. Fuck right off. Seriously, unsubscribe. Don't listen. I don't want you as part of this show. You all suck because you're like, that story came out. And look, I'm sure there's, and I don't know anything about the finances of DAZN at this point, but I'm sure there's a merit, there's truth.
But I'm sure there's merit. But that's what's so funny, I gotta turn. It's like, dude, I'm with you 100%. 100%. There is an anti-anything beyond PBC, and it has grown in the last couple of years on Twitter. It was quiet as hell the first couple of years, and all one-sided almost towards anti-PBC. But the last chunk of years, it has built up. There are people. All you got to do is if someone says something about a fighter or whatever, right? And they made a legit point, let's say, about a PBC fighter or whatever, an event, whatever the fuck, right? All you got to do is look at the comments and the replies, I guess you could say. But there's always like 1 or 2 dudes at the bottom of it or at the start of it that no matter, they can catch anybody on the internet talking any kind of thing sideways, whether it's legit or not, about the PBC, and those motherfuckers will hunt them down and go through 25 different accounts and shit like that. You know what I mean? So yes, that does exist. I hear that, no doubt about it. It does. And like I said, in the last couple of years, it's grown. I also think that it grew because the PBC didn't die. So a lot of people were like, what the fuck? They kept saying what the fuck. They just weren't saying it loudly. And then now you just got that. So you do have some fanboys that pretty much pro PBC, and that's it. And that's not a boxing fan. Maybe one of your favorite fighters or a couple of your favorite fighters are PBC fighters. Maybe it's just a race thing where you're like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I'm sick of seeing this in my society. And then here it is. You are, critiquing Al Haymon on a level you don't critique the other guys on. That's just a fact. It's true. And a lot of it is because he doesn't do interviews. Not that that's why they critique him, but that's why they can get away with it. Because they know they're never going to get a fucking interview with him anyway. You know what I mean? So, and they're still going to have mostly a lot of them still have access to its fighters. A fair amount of them, you know what I mean, in the event itself. But I do agree with that, though. I totally agree with that. But you hear them at the end go, I don't even know about their finance. I mean, I don't know. There is some merit. It's like, why don't you know about some of their finances? Why? I mean, the sports business industry outlet platforms, they've been doing a great job at reporting on DAZN for whatever, worldwide or here. They've done a great job. And it's just funny to me that you don't know anything about DAZN's finances. Maybe, I don't know. There's some merit, I'm sure. But yet you couldn't stop talking about finances in the media in general. And like I said, the fund updates, quarterly fund updates. There's just so much money that wasn't even spent yet that they were worried about, but then earmarked in already spent money that DAZN is doing at a way higher clip. That was the problem. We heard about the clip, the burn rate. Oh, my God, the burn rate, all this shit. But yet, where is that for DAZN? And for the ones that weren't doing that or they were kind of in between, they weren't saying it either way, okay, and maybe some of them that were kind of looking at it going, I mean, you do have a point. It doesn't look good, whatever. Then there were just people that would be like, well, I know from opening up a business you have to make a profit, but these weren't that type of businesses. You open the door and you have to make a profit in 6 months. These are startups. These are investments. These are mid to long-term investments. It's a lot different. But if you learned your lesson, by even somewhat digging the grave of the PBC, if you've learned your lesson and that's why you're not doing it, I somewhat respect that, but you have to come out and say it then, as a media member. You know what? I didn't cover that properly, but that shit ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. So I totally agree with Mannix on this, though. I really do, because I see some people, DAZN this, DAZN that. But from last year, April, this time has just flown by, but it hasn't, if that makes sense. I just don't know the date sometimes. The last April and the run they made from last April till now, till earlier this year or whatever, was damn good. And they should get a lot of credit for it. I mean, the funny thing is you didn't hear the first 6 to 8 months or whatever it was from 2018 October to that April to 2019. They didn't talk about the run-of-the-mill mediocre fights they were overpaying for much. They gave them a pass. But if you look at the first 2 to 3 months, the first 6 months especially, the amount of critique on the PBC was nowhere near it. So that's my point with this. Mannix is making a great point, but he's sitting there up on his high horse, and he hasn't really talked too much about finance. And you could even tell some of the guests, and I think it was the guest he had on right here, it does seem like there is a DAZN tie on some sort of sponsorship level, whether it's to the actual shows or to the ringtv.com or to the Athletic, like I mentioned, which they definitely, gave some form of sponsorship, whatever. But my point is to sit there and say you can fuck right off and be so passionate. I'm right there with you, buddy, but I need that passion in general. And to sit there and say root for stuff, and a lot of it is these folks not wanting to be wrong. They said the PBC was going to die, then they got a deal. Well, then they're going to critique the deal, and they're going to do this and that, and it's like they keep moving the goalposts, basically. So I 100% am with Mannix on this point. I think it's really silly to want DAZN USA to die. They have a lot of good fighters. They were making good fights. Like I said, those dates I pointed out, they were on a damn good run. Them and Fox were doing the best stuff. You could fucking say whatever you want, but ESPN and Showtime weren't putting up with DAZN and Fox. And when I say Fox Sports, FS1 as well. That's who was putting it up. So I 100% agree with that. Who's ever sitting there looking for the depth of DAZN, you're not a real boxing fan. You're just not. You can, I've called out Eddie Hearn multiple times about him overpaying fighters, but he was the one saying, along with the other media members and promoters. And a few years ago, a lot of these media members and part-time media members would say, I talked to this promoter. I talked to that promoter. So it's like they're siding with the promoters over Al when Al was the biggest threat to the promoter because of, what he doesn't take from the fighter compared to what, like Bob Arum, a deal with Bob Arum is. And other, fighters too. And managers, I want to make that clear too, not just promoters. Managers. I mean, managers were legally, 32, 33% they could take from him before Al came in? I'm not saying he changed the law, but I'm saying he didn't take that much. But yet he's giving you as a manager a lot. But anyway, so yeah, you are not a boxing fan. You're a stan. You're something else. You're not a full-on boxing fan if you want them to fail. 100% agree. But here's another example of Mannix. And, I mean, this guy, over and over, this guy, talked about, this, that. I mean, this guy talked over and over about this stuff. And that's what gets me. He would always say stuff, I mean, here's an old tweet underneath this clip on Twitter. Spike, as Dan Raphael reports, the first PBC network to bail. Other industry execs say will follow. Haymon creation crumbling. This is 2017 April, so a year into it, and this is just one thing that popped up because it's under a tweet. I mean, first of all, when they say bail, they didn't even, and that's another thing, they didn't even talk about, it wasn't bail, it was a 3-year deal. 2 years were done, 1 year was negotiable. Spike said they couldn't come to terms. Cool. But if he was so hard up, Al Haymon in the PBC, if they were so out of money and so fucking desperate, wouldn't you think that they just take the Spike deal? And that's where it's like, all right, dude, what are we even talking about now? Because it just the many different times that he would say shit. I mean, he still in the last 6 months and year has asked, where is the PBC investor money? Part of the fucking fund. But then he doesn't get, this isn't my money, not for DAZN. But here's an example of him talking about Fox and the problem with the PBC and Fox.
Ratings or money, or a significant amount of money off these pay-per-views. And I've had this conversation with different promoters. There's an interpretation of this that Fox almost uses their Fox broadcast to build up fighter A to make him a bigger pay-per-view attraction, even if it costs them, ratings or money in the main Fox event. It's almost, I'd almost make the comparison to like how wrestling treats like Monday Night Raw, where you have like the two stars bickering back and forth. Maybe they wind up on the same screen together with somebody hops in the ring, but they don't actually fight until you get them on pay-per-view. I mean, it feels like there's some kind of mirror to that with how Fox treats boxing and when it comes to Fox and the pay-per-views.
Yeah,
Just listen to that quote. It's like Fox is building up their fighters to become bigger names, whether it's pay-per-view or not, or a pay-per-view opponent. I mean, listen to what he's fucking saying. Fox is building a fighter. Like, come on, dude. Their exposure, their promotion as far as running commercials at a high level in different sports too, not just during a boxing event or whatever, and the shoulder programming, like, nobody's given this amount of minutes, hours, viewership in any boxing here in the States. It's just a fact. So it's crazy. And to think of how many fucking fighters were built on ABC and CBS and NBC and even ESPN in the early parts of Top Rank as well. Did a good job there. And it's just funny to say, for years we'd always say, well, these fighters got built on national TV. That's why they got bigger. But you're ripping them for that, and not only that, the Fox broadcasts have been pretty damn good. Now, have they had, Erislandy Lara against Canelo's brother? Fuck yeah. But I mean, dog, to sit there and say that, it just doesn't. It's so backwards. It's like, exposing them to make them bigger. Like, isn't that one of the main points? Like, I just don't. And he, in the rollout of these Fox back-to-back years, got dumped on. At best, mediocre. Just dumped on most of the time. And look how they turned out. I mean, look at 2 out of the 3 main events of Fox this year. We had some of the biggest upsets. I mean, some of the undercards were good. My point is, it's just so ironic that he's talking about building people on that platform. But they're not going to fight on that platform. But we know. But see, it's funny when they're wasting money. It's funny when they're wasting money on doing these huge matchups, but the model's not ready to have 2 guys making a couple of mil apiece on network TV. It may never be there. Notice how ESPN and Top Rank have never done an ABC show yet? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed why they put their product in 2019 on ESPN Plus rather than on their main ESPN? It's a process, but the same people that'll break down the business models where you got to make money to take it in are the same people like Coppinger. I've mentioned this a few times. Coppinger literally said now that he's with The Athletic, and he's tied to DAZN sponsorship-wise, that's for sure. Think about this. He said they needed to find a way to put Wilder and Fury rematch on normal network TV. So something that did that kind of pay-per-view number, that did that kind of monster gate, now has to be put on network TV. I mean, I love it, but you can't sit there and say, do that. Why don't they do that? But then turn around and say, they're not making profit like that. Oh, you're not making profit like that, dude. That's not the model. We know now after that first year that the model it just doesn't work right now. Like I said, it may never. So anyway, it's not a big surprise. Mannix, like I said, I'm not talking about the job he does as far as his talent level or, getting people like the Passionate shows or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. But even this shit, I mean, talk about not knowing the future. This is a tweet from him. Someone brought this up. Across boxing, the money is drying up. This is end of May 2016. Across boxing, the money's drying up. PBC is going away. Eventually, premium network budgets are shrinking annually. Things need fixing. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's an example of him shitting on a grave. I mean, I don't know what else it is. What else would that be? And there's layers of that. So many layers of him doing that. So that's the thing. He makes a point where it's like, yeah, dude, that is bullshit. So you rally behind that, but you don't call him out on Twitter for his other views because you probably had that view too about PBC and Al Haymon and whatnot. And they're the evil of the sport. And the funny thing is you hear so much about that, but since 2016 and really 2015, if we're being honest, who's made more of the bigger, better fights, consistent fights? It's not even fucking up for grabs. Thank God for DAZN, actually. Thank God for DAZN because they're the ones who actually started putting out maybe a main event would suck or the co-feature sucks in the main, whatever, but they'd hook it up on the undercard. Or it'd be a great double or triple header, thank God for DAZN, actually, because they're actually the ones that are starting to compete with the PBC as far as content, quality content. They're not in. I don't think they're actually in as much of. They're in competition, but not. DAZN's far behind them as far as viewership and all that. But as far as quality content for the avid boxing fan, like I said, they had a rough start, sure, but hey, they were starting. That was the key word. They had to put together a roster. Not easy, Not easy. Anyway, so yeah, Mannix, he's a poser, dude. He's a poser. He's the biggest hater. He was one of the biggest haters out there of Haymon. But yet, you're going to get that passionate over people shitting on DAZN, which I agree. They shouldn't shit on him. What the fuck you thinking if you're a boxing fan? Okay. I will be getting I've been kind of talking PBC in and out, but I will be getting to just kind of a look back just in general at the PBC, some of it this, some of it that, whatever. Now here's TMZ. TMZ talking about Henry Cejudo? What is his name? God damn it, it's cut off. Someone sent this to me, but it's cut off. I know the dude's name first is Henry, but I can't read his. Cejudo? Is that a J or a J? I can't see it. I really don't know him that well. Anyway, he says he's in talks to fight Ryan Garcia in Saudi Arabia. This is the guy that was going back and forth the other day. Interesting. Very interesting. The top rank Tuesday, Thursdays, the month of June. I mentioned this a little bit, but this is the dates: June 9th, 11th, 16th, 18th, 23rd, 25th, 23rd, 25th. So yeah, it's going to be every Tuesday and Thursday. So that will mean I'm going to adjust the show. I may start doing a Monday, Sunday show and a Friday show. I'm not really sure because it goes off my work schedule and yada, yada, yada. And when we pick back up right now, we only have our patio open as far as, front of the house stuff. Beyond, you can do curbside and stuff. So hopefully in about 2 weeks, they're going to reopen it fully. And then I'll know my schedule more because I'm only working part-time right now. Still kind of part-time, unemployed. So just a heads up out there as far as the show. I don't think it'll be on Tuesday nights a whole lot because it kind of defeats the purpose to do the show on Tuesday night while there's a fight on. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Anyway, here's a little news. Eddie Hearn, this is from Pound Podcast, talking about Fury and AJ. I'd love to see one of these fights in the UK. I'm hoping maybe the government say we must make sure the fights stay here, so we'll help you with the finance as far as the pay site. It's not just about the fight, it's about what it does economically in the economy, local economy. Yeah, it makes sense. I hear that. I actually would love to see it in a huge stadium in the UK. I understand why they go overseas, though, because that site fee. But, yeah, he is right. That'd be dope if they could put up some money. White Povetkin and Taylor Serrano, which I'm really looking forward to this. And if DAZN goes away, well, maybe it'd be on Showtime. I don't know. But, hey, you might not get to see this, people that want DAZN to go away. It's going to be August 8th or August 5th. August 8th or August 5th. That's what they're lining it up, which is dope, which is really dope. Some more news. David Benavidez, who was scheduled to fight Angulo, Angulo, looks like he's getting lined up in July. Also undefeated lightweight Michelle Rivera will face Marcos Villasano Jr. Villasano for a WBA elimination bout on an undercard. So that seems like a decent fight. I think Angulo and Benavidez is a good action fight, good stay busy fight, whatever. Here's Coppinger. Sources tell The Athletic. Ivan Baranchik and Jose Zapata have agreed to terms for an ESPN main event in July. So that's pretty dope. I like that. That's going to be good. That's a good fight right there. Solid fight. I mentioned this. Mike Tyson offered $1.1 million to fight for the rematch of Peter McNeely. The rematch, I'm just gonna stop. Ooh, this one has me pumped. Rematch between. This is from Bad Luck Took. Rematch between Juan Francisco Estrada and Chocolatito Gonzalez planned for late summer. Sign me up for that one, folks. Sign me up. Now, there was a little report. Was it July 9th or July 7th for Baranchik Zapata? It sounds like it's July 7th. I don't know if I just said that or not, but I did see a tweet on that. So, and this is somebody's tweet here. This is kind of a boxing Twitter segment here. Mannix takes are odd because he goes on to praise UFC, which is now behind 2 paywalls, and most of their big events are on pay-per-view, let's be honest, for most of their events, but thinks PBC should be putting all their fights on TV for the sport. It is kind of funny how he's got a lot of praise for that. There is rumors out of Saudi Arabia that Manny Pacquiao and Mikey Garcia, which I've always thought would be the fight that would happen. Not always, like from years ago or nothing like that, but when we started measuring up who Manny would fight next, I always thought that this would make the most sense here for him, money-wise and whatnot. Out of Texas, Jerry Jones, Cowboy Stadium, they say, hey, Canelo Spence, come on in, dude. We can sit our stadium 25% full. So we'll see if anything pops up there. Inoue and Casemiro in September, Las Vegas. Inoue and Casemiro. That's a good fight. September, Vegas. That'd be dope. That would be dope. This is actually from Mannix. It's not from Mannix. It's a tweet. CSC Boxing. Or CES Boxing. A New England, it looks like, based promotional company, there we go, has publicly offered Mike Tyson $1 million, a percentage of closed circuit, in $200,000 to the Tyson-approved charity for Tyson's fight with the journeyman, Cusimano, in a traditional boxing fight. Jesus criminy, everybody's trying to cash in. Now, here's some news that just came out today. It's not official. This one's from Cop. I copped it from Cop. Canelo Alvarez and Sergey Derevyanchenko is in talks for a September 14th fight at 168, which is kind of interesting. So does that mean he's gone then? I'd assume so. I don't think Canelo's going back to 160. Because why wouldn't he just do it for this? Maybe because he's been out the ring so long by the time he fights. I don't know. No, that doesn't make sense. Because he would have been out of – yeah, it doesn't line up. Because he was out of the ring for a while, and he still fight Golovkin at 160. So, as we know, Canelo was set May 2nd for Billy Joe before the pandemic. Other opponents being considered for Canelo, but it won't be Triple G. We're unlikely to see Triple G and Canelo for the trilogy until early 20. Well, I don't even know about early either. Who knows? I mean, if it's over here, it'd be in May. But that's a good fight. I'm not sure how Derevyanchenko is going to be at 168 for sure, but interesting. Here's another one from Cop, The Athletic. Alvarez and Joe Smith. Oh, yeah, that's a good fight. Alvarez and Joe Smith Jr. have an agreement in principle to meet in a main event in mid-July, tentatively date for July 16th, part of the 4-man WBO light heavyweight box-off vacancy title thing. I don't know. Great matchup. It's funny, though. Coppinger said 2 of the biggest punchers in boxing. I mean, Joe Smith, you could say he's a puncher, sure. But Alvarez is a puncher? Like, do you classify Alvarez as a puncher? I know he knocked out Kovalev. He didn't knock him out in the rematch, but I know he knocked him out. But would you really classify him as a full-on puncher? I don't know. This one's coming from Tim Smith, the PR for Premier Boxing. Got this from Marquis Jones. I don't know why I said that weird. Jones, it just came out weird. Good guy. I follow him on Twitter. Good follow. They're saying end of July, which is what I've heard too, mid to end of July for the return of PBC. So there's that. Let's see. Why don't I just get into some of this boxing Twitter before I finish the show with the anniversary show? Oh, here's a tweet. DAZN is about to be purchased by the NFL. DAZN is done. The NFL is buying the platform to move Sunday Ticket to it, as well as rebranding the platform. DAZN will be claiming bankruptcy. All the fighters in leagues, under contract, those contracts will be dissolved. NFL is only buying the actual platform in the new server farm DAZN created. This keeps the Sunday Ticket in-house. Interesting twist, Hearn and Oscar also may be claiming bankruptcy as they are on the hook for the fighters' guarantees in the DAZN contract. The bankruptcy will only remove DAZN liability of the contracts for Canelo, Triple G, but the promoters are still liable for those guarantee paydays. That's for sure. I don't know about that. I don't know about that second part. I mean, I don't know about the whole thing. I guess I could see it because it's already built up as a streaming. Then you could sense it's, it was already planning on taking a worldwide approach like that and going to 200 countries. It would line up pretty well to own the live streaming platform in all those countries and then just profit from it. I don't know. I don't know if they'd want to do that or they're going to go bankrupt and then so all the Italian league and all those, the German league, like all those great contracts they have or content. I don't know how great a contracts they actually are. I mean, as we know, they owe, a lot of billions of dollars in a process of 5 years, $6 billion. So we'll see. Jamal Herring is going to return against Jonathan Aquino. Alex Cicero and Sonny Fredrickson, that could be a really interesting fight. Andrew Maloney and Joshua Franco. Okay. I wonder if that would be good. So there is some fights that are starting to, like I said, next week, dude. It's popping next week. It's popping. Oh, here's some boxing Twitter here. It is possible that Pacquiao actually beat Mayweather. Or is it? Is it possible that Pacquiao actually beat Mayweather? This vid got like 4 million views and shows every land in slow motion. We're back to the fucking slow motion video. Are we biased towards Floyd because he's so slick and expected to win? I mean, I got what I got out of that fight just watching it. I didn't need to see the whole fight in slow motion. I didn't need to see that. But yeah, if you got to watch the fight in slow motion to find out who won, sheesh. I mean, especially when the guy, how many rounds could you really give Manny? Let's be honest. I mean, if you're giving him 5, I don't know what you're talking about. 8-4, I still don't know what you're talking about, but I'm willing to say so you thought he clearly won or whatever. But this whole draw shit or he won shit, just stop. So here's an interesting tweet, and I believe this is from the same account that I believe this is a Boxing Scene forum post to. Why did Kovalev allow himself to get beat up by Yard in preparing for Canelo? He let himself get beat up. Most forum members picked Kovalev to finish Yard early. Everyone knew that if Kovalev won, he was getting the fight. Yeah. Before Yard, why did I keep saying that? Yard fans were eager for unifications with the Crusher versus Bushstick and Bivol and Beterbiev. If Kovalev was already shot, why would fans want to see him, in those unification fights? And that's a good point, too. Somehow Kovalev turned to a shot fighter after the Yard fight. Fans still don't realize how hard Canelo hits. It's the reason why GGG isn't the same anymore. Canelo has been in beast mode, is in beast mode, I think he meant to say, at 29 years in his prime. A fighter at the optimal level, having a close fight with Kovalev is a fix. Which is it? Kovalev is old and shot, or Kovalev doesn't really have the power to hurt guys even at 175 when Canelo isn't training at light heavyweight like other light heavyweights. Why would Kovalev take damage against Yard? That doesn't make sense. Okay, so that was a weird post because that person who posted, I think he posted both. He's all over the place with that shit. I thought we were going a different way. I really did. Thanks for sending that to me. They wanted to remain off the record. Oh, here's that Floyd Mayweather thing. So Floyd Mayweather signs on for a major celebrity boxing. He's not fighting, but a major celebrity boxing event. Some big names being thrown around, and obviously Floyd's one of them. Is that tied to Tyson's return? As the fighters themselves, we cannot give it away, but two of the names are big boxing stars. Others are from the NBA, Hollywood. Oh, it might be that. We're told the organizers are targeting end of June at the venue in Las Vegas. They're working with health and wellness website Celebrity Sweat to put in the whole thing together. So it's Fight for Cause, and it's for the U.S. military and COVID relief. I wonder, I just wonder, you know what I mean? I just wonder what that actually means, like all the way. All right, one more boxing Twitter. Okay, wow. And this is from May 24th. This is when I'm not just saying wow. I'm saying wow because that's how it starts. Wow. 7 of Floyd's – and what the fuck are we still talking about Floyd for? He hasn't been in a real fight in 5 years. But anyway, wow. 7 of Floyd's 14 recent wins had serious asterisks to them. No other fighter I can think of has this many asterisks to their win, not even Pacquiao. Well, I mean, I think some people would think Canelo, but whatever. Okay. So Pacquiao, the Pacquiao fight. Floyd used the illegal IV. Well, USADA was present, so that made it non-illegal. And actually, at that time, it was actually legal in Nevada to do it. Now, WADA says you can't do an IV. USADA in the commission, the athletic commission for for Nevada, actually were allowing testosterone. Were allowing. Well, maybe they were they allowing IVs too? They were allowing testosterone though. Like for levels that you could prove you had a low level, they actually had that going there through USADA and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, okay, that's questionable because he did do, when you say illegal IV, it's illegal in WADA, which is supposed to be the main thing, but they only have, it's complicated, but the people that were actually legislating the fight drug-wise was USADA, and they watched him do it. He even said it, that he did it. So I don't know about that. Maidana won. Banned Maidana from using his own gloves and forced him to wear pillow gloves. He didn't wear pillow gloves. But okay. Drained Canelo to 152. He didn't drain Canelo to 152. They were saying 150 they could do it. And plenty of quotes. You could just Google it. Canelo in his side said, we're willing to go to 150 over and over again. Come on. Ortiz, Victor Ortiz, sucker punch win. If you think he won the fight on a sucker punch, you weren't watching the fucking fight. I mean, come on, dude. Like, Ortiz is getting his ass kicked. His eye was closing. He headbutted him. Was it a way to get away with something because he knew it was well within the rules, but he wasn't going to give a shit if people said it was a cheap shot? Sure. But legally speaking, it wasn't a cheap shot. Both guys went to their separate corners. They touched the glove. The referee, Cortez, moved away and went to the clock and said, hey, either paying attention to him or starting the clock back up. He knew the round was almost done. But he looked away because he had started the fight. He looked away to the timekeeper. So many people said, oh, he purposely looked away. No, he was either, starting the time like, hey, are we, or paying attention like, okay, where are we at? He could have done that before, I'll give you that, but when you guilt the opposite and say fight, it's time to fight. So to say that that's an asterisk, you're out of your fucking mind. Drake Marquez up from 135. That's not an asterisk because he came up. Now he cheated him on the scale, sure. I'll give you that. He did cheat him on the scales. I don't think, no matter where they fight, I think styles make fights. I think he wins, but okay. De La Hoya, controversial decision. I don't think it's controversial. I don't think that's controversial. I think De La Hoya lost the fight. It was a good competitive fight till the last 4 rounds. I think it's pretty clear. Judah. Now here, I agree with partial of this because Roger rushed in it should have been a disqualification because Roger Mayweather entered the ring. Now we've seen other guys enter the ring and not get it, but we've also seen some people get disqualified because they did it. And the fact is, the rule says you can't come in there. So I agree with that. But here's the point. Here's what he says. He rushed in to attack Zab, giving Floyd a break as he was losing. This should have been a disqualification. So Floyd wasn't losing the fight. He didn't need a break. If anybody needed a break, it was actually Zab. And if you're honest with yourself, and if you didn't just hate Mayweather, come on, dude. He was hurt to the body. Zab in a couple of different fights have gone low. And it's happened to Zab. Look at the Cotto fight. When Cotto got hurt, what did he do? He went low on Zab. So clearly Zab went low and then went extra because he was hurt to the body, dude. He was losing the fight. Like, that's so stupid to say. Now, I agree with the disqualification, but not because you say he was losing and you need to get bailed out. Like, come on, dude. Here we go. Floyd's money and influence saved him in all those. So you're telling me Floyd's money saved him against De La Hoya? Mr. Money Man? I mean, when he fought Zab Judah, he wasn't the money man yet. You're out of your mind. He wasn't the money man yet. That's not the money Floyd Mayweather yet. He wasn't this huge A-side, B-side shit. He was just getting going. He just had done one pay-per-view at that time. So to sit there and say his money and influence, he wasn't making a ton of money then, and he didn't, the influence. Oscar De La Hoya, come on, dude. Come on. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about it's crazy. We got 24 minutes left to show, 25 minutes. I'm going to close on the main topic here. The PBC anniversary. It's already been 5 years. So as we know, more than 5 years ago, I think it was March, right? March 2015, it kicked off. Yada, yada, yada. Y'all know the story. 2015, 2016, the product was spread across a bunch of networks. ESPN, Spike, NBC, Fox, CBS, Bounce. And, in some ways it was a necessary evil when you stand back and look at it. And also the Business Sports Journal came out and said the reason why they had to do that. So, yeah, I got to admit, for a casual fan, they were never going to be able to keep track of all those fights on all those networks. No doubt about it. And even for an avid fan like yourself and myself, that shit was tough. And I remember to follow every single fight and what channel. Oh, God, I forgot to DVR that. It definitely had its bad points. You have the pros and cons. That was a con, no doubt about it. That did suck. That didn't help things the first year, no doubt about it. I remember in October, I think they had that first year they had, because I remember having a segment about it on that show. They had a toe-to-toe Tuesday on FS1. They had a Wednesday or Thursday ESPN. They had one on Spike, and then they had one on Showtime or Bounce. It was 4 different events in 1 week. Overkill. And, I did think that many events on that many channels did feel like overkill. It's something that we talked about. It's something they adjusted slowly but surely. But I did think that. Now, part of the, moving the goalpost stuff, when ESPN added more years to their deal and added more dates, people were happy that they had 50 dates or whatever. But it was too much clutter, or too much numbers. I thought 50 dates for one outfit is too much, I think. And I thought about, 48 or 45 they hit that first year? That is too much. I thought that with the PBC the first year. I thought that when I saw that deal with Top Rank where you're like, dude, that's a lot of cards. We're going to get a lot of mediocre content, and it has led to that to an extent, right? So, yeah, that was not a good look. But like I said, when you read the article outside of the boxing media, when you read the article from the Business Sports Journal, and by the way, it's a charge platform, but that article, they've had 2 or 3 articles that weren't charged, so you can go check them out. They said, well, there was no networks knocking on the door, so we had to go get it. And so as far as trying to follow it, especially that first year and even that second year, yeah, it was way too much spread out, no doubt about it. But like I said, when you look at it, in a sense, it wasn't necessary evil because it got their idea and their product in front of a network executive. It got them in meetings right across from one another to pitch their idea. And so you weren't going to get a big deal or a deal in general, a full deal for NBC or Fox or whatever. You weren't going to get one. It wasn't available. It wasn't on the table. So this is the way in, right? And yes, I do, like I said, I do think it was just too many dates, I thought, and the freaking, so many. But as a fan, that does suck. But as a media member, I always thought, okay, yeah, but why did they do that? And most people did. There was a lot of information in that first article written in the Sports Business Journal that a lot of people they didn't get the scoop, so they didn't want to relay any of the message ever, like it didn't exist. Even though they got quotes directly from Cadwell, who left, Waddle and Reed to go to the PBC for a year to supervise. They got direct quotes from someone very close and has been with them for a while from Haymon. So, I mean, in NBC and others, So, I think you got to see it both ways, but that part did suck. I got it. That did suck. Another thing, when they put out some better names, Broner against Porter, Thurman against Guerrero, Danny Garcia, Lamont Peterson, 2 of those 3 fights didn't turn out to be that. Some of them turned out to be competitive, like Peterson and Garcia. It wasn't as great a fight as I thought it'd be, though, as far as just action. But I did see part of the media and the fans agree, saying that, you don't always have to put a top guy name against a top guy name, or even a top name in there. Sometimes you can go off the style of the fight because the casuals, they don't fucking know these guys anyway. So as long as you, and I give this example to Top Rank, sometimes Top Rank, and I'll say in 2019, I don't think they met this. I think they were kind of far off from this, but they've been around so long and they have great matchmakers that sometimes it's just a good TV fight. I think the media's lost their ideas fully on the good action fight, and for either ignoring or forgetting, and more likely ignoring, the fact that a casual doesn't fucking know these guys. So a style fight makes sense too. You got to blend both of them. And like I said, the model doesn't work right now to pay 2 type fighters on Fox or any other network to try to make money off the event. So like I said before, you can't move the goalposts. You can't destroy them for not making money on an event and turn around and tell them to make this fight so they don't make money on an event. You see what I'm saying? They do it, but you're not, that doesn't line up. It doesn't line up. So you could see they started paring stuff down. Some writing on the wall was there. The second year, ESPN Spike, the product was more middle of the line, prospect driven. Some decent mid-level fights, but overall it was pretty much prospect driven. It wasn't some of the lineups that we had previous. And same with Spike, right? Because the product went to Showtime, and also Fox started reing up their deal as far as the time buy. So when you looked at it, they did actually they actually did switch some stuff for obvious reasons, money-wise, budget-wise, whatever. But also, I thought they not just changed the ring walks and all that, but I did totally agree with you. You're not going to put, sometimes the style, just getting a person on over and over on the event, their style might not open up to everybody. So you don't want to just go with that style of fight. You want to go with good style fights, action fights too. And I meant style of a fighter, a second ago. But then you look at fights that turned out, they turned out really fun in the ring, but they got destroyed as fights leading up to it. Like I mentioned with the two Fox rollouts, they got really undervalued and destroyed. And that's not to say on the surface they look like phenomenal, great lineups, because they did. They didn't look like, oh my God, it's can't miss. There was a couple of fights that were can't miss, Lipinets, Peterson, and shit like that. But you know what I mean, overall. It wasn't like I was overly impressed, like, oh my God, this is the best schedule. I'm not saying that, but it wasn't as shitty as they said either. And a lot of these fights, and that's the difference with Top Rank. Like, I remember numerous people said this last year when Jose Ramirez fought Zapata. Was it Zapata? It was a competitive, close-ass fight. And they're up hooting and hollering like, oh my God, this is why Top Rank's the best. This is why it's a good action fight. They make their fighters work for it, but that wasn't what they gave us product-wise consistently that year. And there's other fights like, and I'll say these were on national TV. These are network shows. These were what some media members were calling for, because I do agree with the casual thing. A lot of people don't know these. Guys, they don't. So let's just put a good fight on, a competitive fight. Doesn't always have to be a name, right? You gotta build the other names too. Well, when you look at, who was it? Was it Duhaupas? Was it Duhaupas? Wilder Duhaupas on NBC, that PTF 3 mil? That was a good fight. It was a fun fight to watch. Best fight of the year? No. But if you're casual, you kept tuning in. I remember Figueroa against DeMarco on NBC. People fucking destroyed that fight. But if you looked at Omar Figueroa and you looked at where he was in his career and you'd already seen some of the flaws he had, major enough to put kind of a cap on him, that seemed like, and I know DeMarco wasn't in his prime, but I wouldn't say he was completely gone either. And sure enough, as that fight heated up, it turned out to be a fun fight. But it goes down as a piece of shit mismatch to a lot of folks. And I see it on Twitter all the time. This it just keeps recycling itself. Next fight I'll talk about going into the next year, in 2016, I remember this because it got killed so much. Garcia against Guerrero. Is this a great welterweight fight? And oh my God, this really is for the number one spot? Fuck no. But was it a good action fight? Fuck yeah, it was. It was a good fight. Good TV fight. Peaked at well over $3 million. I think at 3.2 or 3.5. I don't remember exactly. It's like an 8-4 fight. It was competitive. It was a good TV fight. If Top Rank or Main Event put on this fight, people would be like, that's good matchmaking. That's just a good style fight. It's a stay busy fight for Danny, but it was fun to watch. And so on and so on. And some of their undercards they put on, it would be a stay busy fight for a name that we know, but then the undercard would give you a good competitive fight. Globowski against who was it? Cunningham was under Spence Algieri. Like, didn't they had Marcus Brown against Hot Rod, that Hot Rod dude. That was a good ass scrap. Like, you could tell they were now showing Fox in the end what they can actually do with a real budget and not lose a bunch of money on it. And they were showing that, and they changed that model, and the bigger money fights went to Showtime. It is true, right? So ESPN, there was all these threats of ESPN in the lawsuit. Oh, it's a huge lawsuit. Steve Kim, huge lawsuit coming. There was never a lawsuit. That was just rumors. And it's funny because and that Mannix and all those guys were like, Montero too, we're all like, oh no, it's over, it's all crumbling. But they're not even hearing what the person who had something to do with buying the product and negotiating the product said about the PBC and Al. Spike said we couldn't come to an agreement, but they were willing to pay for more, weren't they? And like I mentioned, if Al Haymon was so desperate at that time, then why the fuck didn't he just take Spike's money? Well, we know now. It's just like ESPN. Yes, the product on Spike and ESPN did go down that second year. But obviously now we know why. Now we know why. The Fox product, I mean, considering, was actually a little better than that, but the FS1 has always been fairly consistent. But it just, my thing is, when it came to the PBC, as it dwindled down, so they're bitching because there's too many networks, but then when they dwindle down, that's showing that they're fucked. Did you think they were going to really get a deal with 6 different networks? Don't understand that. So NBC went off, ESPN went off, and then it was just like, see, this is what's happening. They're fucked, Like I said, ESPN said, this first time buy showed me what we can do successfully, and it showed me, it showed me a blueprint. And he said that's why I was interested also in getting some sort of boxing content. Clearly with ESPN Plus, it fit perfect too with Top Rank because they have that fucking catalog, dude. It's a deep-ass boxing catalog too. They since, in 2016, 2017, 2018, wherever it was, and some of it was on, a good chunk of it was on Showtime. Some of it, they had a couple of fights on CBS. I forgot. Did I mention CBS earlier with those afternoon shows? Some of those were hit or miss. Some of those were good, blah, blah, blah. But you could kind of see, okay, well, that 2-year deal's done. That 2-year deal's done. That 2 years done. 2 years deal's done. But Fox re-upped on a new time-buy deal. And I'm starting to see them actually advertising stuff, and I'm starting to see them, okay, now we're down to only a couple networks. Well, the writing was on the wall that Fox was working it out, and they were also in talks with the UFC because for a long time it looked like Fox and ESPN were going to both have the product, but ESPN with their ESPN Plus and how much investment they were willing to give, they just said, fuck it, we'll just pay for all that. And hey, it's great for ESPN Plus, that's for sure. But like I said, the goalposts move when it comes to the PBC. You can sit here and say I'm bitching about it, whatever, but it's true, dude. Over and over, we heard they're done. How many boxing Twitter segment tweets have I showed you on Steve Kim and Montero and all these people? Oh, it's done, it's over, it's done. And I wasn't saying it's alive and it's going to happen. I was just in between. Well, I have information here and I have information there. We'll see. We will see. You know what I mean? And to me, now after the deal, you could see how the media sometimes still reacts. Years ago in 2015, 2016, the media members were laughing that they couldn't do a pay-per-view. They have no names. They have all this shit, right? Then, flash forward to a new deal. Now they have more names. Now they have some ticket sellers. Now they have some guys that they built that had nothing to do with HBO. Gervonta Davis, Spence, Wilder, they have nothing to do with HBO. Nothing to do with them. And Thurman got more built in front of major audiences, way more than he did on HBO. So it's always funny. You couldn't do that, but now they got too many pay-per-views. Which one is it? Why can't you just call a bad pay-per-view card a bad pay-per-view card, or call a bad main event pay-per-view card and just call it what it is? That's how it used to be before Al Haymon started taking over in some form or fashion, changing the fucking level. And a lot of these guys, I know I've mentioned this not millions times, but a lot of times is the reason why is they want Bob Arum on their show, consistently, and all their fighters, and they're going to follow up to make sure you're not dogging them. They just get away with saying stuff, and also access, just like I said, overall access to it, to their fighters, to the promotional outfit in general. And if the PBC did go away, if they were telling the truth about certain things that would make PBC look a little better anyway than it did back then, they were afraid that, hey, now that PBC's gone, you don't have access anymore because you didn't support me then. And you hear a lot of these guys talking about, I talked to this promoter, I talked to that promoter, I talked to that promoter. Like I said, for so long, Al didn't know how to move a prospect. Al didn't know how to get a ticket seller. Al didn't do this. Al didn't do that. And here we are. Like I said, the last couple of years, name me all the different events that Top Rank has done that got $1 million pay-per-view or $1 million gate. It's that simple. And you can't really list of them. Then you take away Pacquiao now from Top Rank, and there literally almost is no $1 million gates. I mean, it's so funny, and this is the PBC thing as far as, and I just kind of broke down where they went. I'm not going to break down the Fox PBC thing because I've already done a show on that, in an article on that. You can find that on thegruelingtruth.com. Just a progress report. I've done it for ESPN Top Rank. I did it for DAZN, and I did one for PBC on Fox. But it just overall, it's a rant because the media, this turned into a rant part because I kind of, explained some things about it. I'm not going to go over all the details as far as the PBC because we know, but it's just kind of funny when you look at the difference between ESPN and DAZN and their launch and what they want. And people were saying, the exposure. Let's get something with exposure. And when the ESPN deal came along, yeah, man, exposure. PBC's dead. Let's get exposure. DAZN comes along, signs Canelo and Golovkin, and now let's just have all box. Let's have DAZN buy boxing. Let's have UFC buy boxing, and have Eddie run it. Like it just it all keeps lining up to anti-PBC shit for a variety of reasons. And the funny thing is a lot of these media members talk about how they care. Their first thing is the fighter. But, Bob Arum takes 30% of your money, dude. Once you get big and all that, 30%. He just broke it down for Tyson Fury when people were asking about it. He broke it down on Twitter, what the takes are. Now, Al Haymon takes 15%. And another lie that was out there for the PBC stuff as far as on Fox and CBS and NBC, he actually couldn't legally take that 15%. The investors took that money. And that was in that first article. The grand opening, boxing is grand opening or some shit like that. That first article. They said it, that 15% is just a little bit of revenue coming in that they know they can have. Now, when it was on Showtime, that's a different deal. But you got to make up to like 100,000 before he starts 15 out. And then once you get into 3 and 5 and 10 million, then he goes down lower percentage because he knows he's making enough money anyway. So if you care so much about which one is it? Because all I hear was promoter this, promoter that. They need promotion. They need promotion. They need promotion. But then who the fuck was getting the biggest exposure? And where are we at now for exposure? And who's the popular fighters? Who's the guy, who has more ticket sales? And who gets – that's what I'm saying. Like every time there's a decent to major fight for PBC, the ticket sales get fucking like totally in-depth, critical, even whether it's true or not. But yet it takes Bob Arum to come out and say, hey, I can't sell tickets here. You guys haven't mentioned it. Time after time, I'm going to go, what do you say? I'm going to go with 10 different events because we can't sell tickets here. 10 different events are going to be from a different country paying me, which I respect. I get it. But it's just so funny. Time and time again, mediocre product was put on ESPN with 800, 1,300, 2,100 in the crowd. But yet you barely hear the media go. Now, you'd still see some guys that are just pro-PBC and that's it. They would jump on it, sure. But it's just so funny how this fucking shit has worked out. And it's like I said, and it still happens. Like I said, I mean, when did $4 million gates and $2 million gates turn out to be shitty gates? You know, it's unbelievable how many. And like I said, if this is how you do it, then do it to every one of these events. Talk about the ticket sales, then they don't. They do not on the same level, and a lot of times it's misinformation. It's straight up lies. And whether they're just on board, because that's what, there is a group of people on Twitter that if you just shit on Al, you're going to get retweets and likes. Now, like I said, the last couple of years, you're starting to see more of a presence of people shitting on everybody else besides PBC. And I don't agree with that. It's just, it's funny how we got to this place and how it was so promoter heavy. I care so much about the fighters, but Al's actually looking out for the fighter way more than any of these motherfuckers. All of them. And you know what? Al's a motherfucker too, if you're going to get mad at me for calling them motherfuckers. Okay? I'm just saying in general with this shit. So just, come on, dude. Here we are 5 years later. They have still the most talent as far as just the size of their scope. And American-wise, they have some of the top names, something they never said that they could build these guys. And sure enough, now they got to improve. Fuck yeah, they got to improve. I've gone over that before, too. And I'm about to run out of time. So, end of rant. It's pretty crazy 5 years, though. I don't want the DAZN to die either. I didn't want PBC to die there. I don't want it. Anyone giving us good product, you're stupid as a boxing fan, maybe not as a human. You're stupid to think that, though, if you're an actual boxing fan. And I'm just ranting because it's about to cut me off, so to just cut me off random. But, yeah, just to reiterate what I said about what Chris Mannix said, yes, it is stupid for boxing fans to go against the DAZN when late April 2019 till the present day before this fucking shit hit, they were popping off. I was seeing commercial runs with that fight season. I was digging their cards, the layers of their cards. Were their main events that great this year so far? No. They did the thing that they were missing on their schedule is the it fight that casuals would just crowd around. But as far as a paying customer from the beginning, they were fucking hooking it up. And there's just no way around it. You're just a hater if you don't think that. But